Okay, I started recording and we're going to get started on time today, and I will just um, admit people as they show. So, welcome everyone to our May 2026 edition of OCJN 201. It is with great pleasure that I introduce to you our speaker, our featured speaker for this episode is Alisha Clegg. She is the newest member of our team here at the Oklahoma Access to Justice Foundation and our first associate director. She's the associate director of legal impact. And we were fortunate enough to meet Alisha and have her as our research intern in the spring of 2025. And now she's a team member. And she is going to talk to us about today's topic, which is expanding access through the introduction of our new legal resource library. And just submit your questions via the chat. I will monitor the chat, and I'm going to turn it over to Alisha, and I'll be back at the end to wrap it up. Welcome, Alisha.
Thanks, Tiffany. Give me just a second to share the presentation. So, as Tiffany said, my name is Alicia, and I am the Associate Director of Legal Impact. And we're going to talk today about accessing legal resources. And the goal of today's presentation is to empower community legal navigators to use the information on our website to provide legal information and not legal advice to people who may be facing legal challenges in their communities. And I've kind of signposted today's presentation to hit a few high points of first, our why, which is why access to justice is necessary, and then what we at ATJ are doing about it, and then how you as community legal navigators can use our materials to help people in your communities. So the first point of, we're going to start with the why. For those who have taken, many of you have already taken the legal first aid training. The following slides may be a little familiar, or you may have seen them before, but I think it's just really important to ground us and to remember, what is our why? Like, why are we trying to make access to the justice system a reality for people? And for us, access to justice looks like when a person, regardless of their income, education, background, or circumstances, can meaningfully address or resolve legal issues that they have using the appropriate court tools or legal systems in their communities. And it's hard to do that when there is a justice gap. So the justice gap is the gap between the need for civil legal assistance among low income Americans and the resources that are actually available to meet them. Um, Nationally, you can see there's a staggering number of low income people who deal with complex legal issues, not just single issues, because most civil issues kind of spiral or compound into multiple issues, whether that's housing, family law, consumer debt. And people are navigating these issues without counsel, or they're in a location that puts them in a position that they can't access adequate representation because the counsel that's available to them just doesn't have capacity to serve the needs in their community. So by just taking a look at these numbers, we see that, 74%, roughly three in four folks have a legal issue. And of those, most all of them aren't going addressed because of the insufficient legal help in their communities. So what that looks like for Oklahoma, it's not very different. We have one of the poorest states in the nation, and what is recommended for what should be like adequate legal services for states in general is 10 attorneys for every 100 or for every 10,000 people living below 200% poverty. And in Oklahoma, that's less than one. And just to put another visual to that, if you look at this map, you can see that Oklahoma has a very real divide when it comes to legal access in terms of rural areas and urban areas. If you see the map, you can each of the dots or like the purple specks that you see represent an attorney in a county in Oklahoma. You can see that in the Tulsa metro and the OKC metro, it's saturated. Those counties are full of attorneys. But if you look at the rest of the state, you can see that many places have like one or no attorneys available. So those would be considered legal deserts. And Oklahoma has 20 counties that fall below the standard to be a legal desert, which is, the ratio of uh, lawyers to residents is 1 to 1,000. So when you again, just take a big picture look at the map, you can see that a majority of the legal help is concentrated in the urban areas, which doesn't leave many options for folks who are having issues in rural areas, more or less folks who are having legal issues in rural areas who are also low income and don't have the means to pay for representation. So the next thing we're going to shift to is the what. So what are we as the Access to Justice Foundation doing to address the justice gap? So the foundation serves as a convener, a collaborator, and an advocate to help increase meaningful participation in the civil justice system so that it can actually be more fair and more accessible to everyone. And what does that look like? Um, for us, one of the big pillars of our work is dedicated to developing clear and accessible legal information and tools for everyday Oklahomans, not just lawyers, not judges, for your neighbor, your grandma, your best friend. Like we're trying to make legal processes that are uh, often seen as hard or complex easy. So what we do is we break down the law and legal issues into plain language explainers that can help people better understand the legal processes and procedures and their rights. And what that looks like um, are infographics, informational packets, trainings that we host, or materials on our website, which is kind of going to be the main focus and bulk of our time we're going to spend today is going through our website. And our materials, especially some of the guides, contain court authorized forms, which are designed to be easy to use so that individuals can, take these forms from our websites, print them out, follow the instructions that we provide with them so that they can take them into court and feel more empowered and confident as they are asserting their rights and seeking the justice that they deserve. And with all of that and how we do it, we've really put an emphasis on using plain language in our work. And I really want to emphasize the importance of it because, again, so much of the law and legal processes and procedures are written in a way that can be hard to understand or digest. And a lot of it still uses a lot of really old, outdated language, and Latin, for example, that is just confusing. And it shouldn't be that way anymore. Because when we use plain language, we level the playing field for people without legal representation or without a formal legal training. And the way that ATJ does that is, again, we use process maps and checklists and icons and explainers that can help make these really cumbersome legal tasks that sometimes attorneys even have trouble navigating just more manageable for someone who is facing a legal issue. And so it's not so overwhelming when they are trying again to access the justice system. So we at the foundation see plain language as a tool that can, simplify these terms, make things more understandable, and help eliminate some of the barriers that exist in just accessing the justice system. And part of that, in addition to creating these materials, we have them up on our website, which we recently revamped in early May. Well, it took most of the spring. And our website is okaccesstojustice.org. And if you want to follow along, you can scan this QR code. The website is mobile friendly. And we're going to spend most of our time today looking at the legal resource library. But before we get started, I want to just kind of do a general tour of what information is on the website. So if you give me just a second to swap over to the website in general. So this is our website. On the homepage, you can find information about how how we do the work that we do. So this just gives a little bit of background about us. And then we have some initial resources that could be helpful to people who may be experiencing domestic violence, or if you're looking to find a lawyer. We have referrals to legal aid services and OILS, which is Oklahoma Indian Legal Services. And this is just kind of a general information hub for for folks who are just looking for resources and don't know where to start. If you don't know yet if you have a legal issue, or you don't know if you have a specific topic that you're looking for, like housing, or tenants' rights, if you just need to talk to someone initially, these are the people you want to reach out to. And then you can always contact us, share your thoughts, or reach out for assistance if you need it. A little bit about us is going to tell us, similarly what our mission is, what's access to justice, what we think access to justice is. And then a little bit about our team. You can see Katie's our executive director. We have Tiffany, who's our director of legal empowerment and has trained most all of you in legal first aid already. Jenna's our director of operations. Shandy Stoner is our director of legal innovation, and you know me. And we also have a quick link to our annual report. These reports are done every year by our legal interns on a topic that is really pressing in Oklahoma that we think we can make some progress on and address. Those those reports are also found in our work page. We have a resource for community navigators. So most of you all who took legal first aid should be familiar with this website because it's the Oklahoma Community Justice Network. And this is your hub, in addition to what we're going to show you today, to help connect people with resources in their communities. Uh, Information on our research reports and advocacy work can be here. We also recently launched a podcast, which we'll get into a little bit more later in our presentation. And then we have a link to our resource library and, of course, pro bono. So if you are interested in doing pro bono, you can look at our pro bono portal for that. In addition to that, we're going to go to the Pathways Fair, which is geared toward law students and public interest employers who are looking to provide opportunities for law students to intern or extern with them. Every year, we've held this fair for 2 years, and the next fair is going to be in 2027. And lastly, we have information on our annual summit. This is a virtual summit that's open to the public. You are welcome to register later this year when registration opens, but you can save the date for October 30th. We have a really great lineup of folks who are scheduled to participate, so we look forward to seeing you all there. And now let's go to the main reason that we're here today, and that's to learn about the Legal Resource Library. So this is a hub for us of information and materials that we have pulled together that are results of projects that we've worked on with other community members or that ATJ has taken on their own, um, to be a resource for the public. Um, One of the goals of our website is for it not to be just as kind of static, update of the work that we do. We want it to be a functional tool. So it is really designed to increase that meaningful participation in the justice system. So with that, we're going to look first at the tenant toolbox. Excuse me. This is a project that was supported by the Tulsa Area United Way Social Innovations Grant. And it focuses on creating practical and accessible and ready to use tools for tenants. This series contains plain language videos and supporting one pagers that support people with common housing issues like understanding your lease, repairs and habitability, the eviction process, retaliation and discrimination, and communicating with your landlords. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up. Well, first, I'm going to ask the audience, is there a topic that you would like to see one of our one pagers on? So I have our video pulled up already, but we can look at a one pager if anybody wants to drop one in the chat. No. Okay, that's fine. Um, I will show this flyer on repairs and habitability. So again, if you're looking at this, it's a one page front and back colorful flyer. You can look at it on your phone. You can download it. You can email it. You can print it out. Um, And we're just trying to share with tenants, what their rights and responsibilities are and how they can request repairs. So we looked to the law and we looked at the statutes for habitability standards and pulled out the essential information that tenants need to know when you're dealing with requesting landlord repairs, or you've already requested repairs with your landlord and you haven't received a response or no action has been taken. So we really focus on making sure that you as a tenant are educated on what essential services are, what is required by the landlords, what do you need to do when something, breaks or is not working, what can you not do or what shouldn't you do when it comes to trying to address these issues. In addition to that, each of the handouts has a QR code that will take you to the corresponding short video because again, we want to make sure that people are getting the information in a way that's most helpful to them. So if you're a more, physical visual learner, and you like having a handout in front of you, this is going to work for you. But if you're, more of an auditory learner or like, short video clips, then you can check out our YouTube video on this topic that contains all of this information. And then if you go to the back of this page, we give you information on, what to do if the repairs aren't made. We put them in a checklist that people can run through. We provide extra tips for people to think about when they're taking action. And we we also have additional information for tenants about retaliation, which we have an entire section on retaliation. So in the event that you find yourself in a situation where you may be retaliated against because you have requested repairs or raised a complaint with your landlord, we have additional support for you on how to navigate that next step in the legal process for yourself. And then, just a reminder about evictions and what options you have as a tenant. So that is the handout on retaliation or on repairs. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to watch the short video together on your tenant rights and responsibilities. So we'll get that going
Hi
now.
there. Welcome to the Tenant Toolbox, your guide to understanding your rights, responsibilities, and best practices as a renter. Whether you're signing your first lease or just looking to make smarter housing decisions, this video will give you an overview of the basics of lease agreements. Written leases are best, and they help prevent misunderstandings between the landlord and tenant that could potentially lead to eviction. You should request a written copy even if your agreement is month to month. Written agreements may offer some additional protections for tenants. For example, in Oklahoma, if you don't have a lease agreement, your landlord can cancel your lease for any reason by giving you a 30-day written notice. You should read the entire lease and make sure you understand it fully before signing. Let's go over some items that you should look for and flag as important. First, you should look for your lease term. The lease term lays out how long the rental agreement will last. Most standard leases are for one-year terms. So if you sign a lease on January 1st, 2025, and it is for a term of 12 months, it will expire on January 1st, 2026. It is important to note and mark in your calendar when your term expires. At least 30 days before your term is set to end, you should let your landlord know in writing whether you would like to renew your lease or if you are going to move out at the end of your term. Some agreements might require more than 30 days' notice of your plans. If you don't give the landlord this notice but continue staying in the unit and paying rent, you will become a month-to-month tenant. Next, you should find the rent amount and due date. This part of the lease tells the tenant how much rent is, when it's due, and how to pay it. You are responsible for paying the correct rent amount on or before the day it is due each month. Failure to pay can result in your landlord filing for eviction. If you are going to be late making your payment, make sure to communicate that to your landlord along with when they can reasonably expect your payment. Clear communication may be helpful in avoiding an eviction for non-payment of rent. You should also locate any late fees and penalties listed in the lease. If rent is late or a rule is broken, like having pets you didn't get permission for or damages, you could face extra fees. These penalties may not be clearly listed in the agreement or may be spread out in multiple sections. Read carefully. Not knowing or understanding what is written in the agreement is not a defense for violating the lease. You should also understand the section that discusses the security deposit. A security deposit is money you give your landlord before you move in, usually equal to 1 month's rent, but not always. A security deposit is not a fee, and it is also not rent. Think of it as the landlord's just-in-case fund. The landlord holds on to this money during your term in case something goes wrong, like if you cause damage to the unit while you live there. If you take care of the home, pay your rent, and follow the agreement, you should get your security deposit back when you move out. Here's the key. Once your tenancy ends, you must ask for your deposit back from your landlord in writing. Your landlord can make reasonable deductions for damage to the unit or unpaid rent or fees, but must return any remaining security deposit to you within 45 days of your written demand. Another critical portion to read is the section on utilities and services. Some utilities may be included in the rent, but services like internet or electricity may be the tenant's responsibility. The lease will tell you which utilities are covered by the landlord and which utilities are your responsibility. Occupancy limits should also be something that you read and follow. It is common for a lease to state that only a certain number of people can live in the unit. However, it is also common for there to be limits on how long guests can stay. Check your agreement and communicate with your landlord to avoid any issues. If you are a pet owner, then you need to understand the pet policy. Some places allow pets with extra fees. Others don't allow pets at all. If pets are allowed, the lease may require an additional pet deposit along with your security deposit, or it might require a non-refundable pet fee. Some landlords will even increase the amount of rent charged to cover a pet. Additionally, landlords may limit the type, size, breed, and number of pets you can have in your unit. The lease usually states that you are responsible for any damage or disturbances caused by your pet. This includes scratched floors, noise complaints, or messes in shared spaces. Always check the pet policy and get any pet-related permission in writing before bringing a pet home. It is important to note that under federal and state law, landlords cannot charge pet fees or deny housing to someone with a service animal. but they can require documentation. Your lease may also include rules about noise, smoking, or parties. Breaking any rule laid out in the agreement can possibly lead to fines or even eviction. Did you know? In Oklahoma, you can be evicted for not paying rent, breaking your lease, or staying after your term ends. If you get an eviction notice, don't wait. Open your mail, talk to your landlord, and get legal help. The sooner you act, the more options you have to stay housed. If you get an eviction notice with a court date, it is very important that you show up. If you don't go, the landlord can automatically win. In Oklahoma, about 80% of evictions end in a default judgment because the tenant did not appear. Know your rights, go to court, and get help.
All right, so that is just a glimpse of, some of the videos that you'll find in this series. They explain these processes, and again, they have the one-page companions. Going back to the library, we also have Together for Justice. This is a similar series of plain language videos and supporting one-pagers to support survivors and domestic violence and advocates with common legal issues like divorce, housing, going to court, and the Oklahoma Survivors Act. And these resources, again, are on our website. People can print them out, you can share them. Um, we're trying to make sure, again, that members of our community have resources in a way that they can understand them, and are calling out things that people need to be aware of that aren't necessarily in the statute, but you need to especially in this series of planning for your safety and how you're going to go to court, the importance of working with an advocate throughout these processes, and what to expect, because many people don't actually interact with the legal system or know about court processes until they're facing a legal issue, and they need to know, how do I go to courthouse, what can I expect when I get there, what papers do I need to bring with me, or documentation, what is allowed in a courtroom, because different courts have different rules locally, so depending on where you are, you may need to check first with the courthouse about what information or evidence you need to bring with you to hearings. So we just try and make these flyers as, informative generally, so that people are better equipped for accessing the legal system. And this project in particular, we worked with the Native Alliance Against Violence, or NAV, and Seminole Nation's Domestic Violence Program. And again, we're not going to watch another video, but you kind of understand the concept of this additional toolkit. The next item that we're going to look at is our criminal fines and fees waiver guide. So this is actually its own standalone website that we created in partnership with 4 other justice organizations. Those were Legal Aid Services of Oklahoma, Justice League, Project Commutation, and Oklahoma Appleseed Center for Law and Justice. Oh, and Still She Rises. I guess it's 5. So these materials include general information that kind of explains what fines and fees are. And they also have a individual guide for people who are navigating the system on their own, pro se. So let's take a look first at the general information. We have this material on the website, but we also, for those who need or want a handout, we have an information sheet that kind of explains, what are fines and fees, how they can impact you, what can you do about it, and then who you can go contact for additional help, or if there are resources that may be local to where you are in the state. In addition to that, we have a hub of documents that have an individual, like I said, an individual guide, but also an advocate guide for people who are, similar to you, like community legal navigators, or people who are kind of frontline workers, social workers, other intake clinicians at nonprofits or social services providers. We have an advocate guide as well. And I'm going to just briefly pull up the advocate guide so we can take a quick look at it. Um, Again, we're very clear that this is all legal information and not legal advice. And it gives people things to consider and the steps on how to request a cost hearing in Oklahoma. And, information that you should bring to your hearing, what you should ask the clerks for when you go to the courthouse, what you can expect when you're at a hearing, what's the format of a hearing typically, and providing information on what the potential implications or next steps are depending on what the judge finds at that hearing. So I think these guides are really helpful. And the other I think really beneficial tool on this or that's part of this project are our instruction forms. So these are court forms that have been annotated so that individuals who, see these fill in the blank court forms can reference these materials while they are filling out their own forms. And we have blank forms and these annotated instruction forms on our website. So if you've never filled out a pleading before or filed a petition, you don't know necessarily what information needs to go where. There's some fill in the blanks that are, kind of obvious, but there's other information that could be helpful and provide additional context to people as they're filling out these packets of forms. So I was really excited to work on this project and to, again, just take this kind of, imposing blank, fill in the blank form and kind of distill it down and provide information or tips for items that could be listed in these forms that could help individuals make their case when they are submitting them to the court. So that is the fines and fees hub. And again, like it's its own website, Oklahoma finesandfeeshelp.org, but you can get to it from our legal resource library. The next thing are our legal partner resources. And these are tools that are primarily for judges and practicing attorneys. However, they're available to the public as well because they're on our website and, knowledge is power. The information is out there. So we created a medical bench and bar card that is focused on updating lawyers and judges of recent changes in the law. So for this tool, the Oklahoma legislature had passed 3 laws that impact how courts should handle medical debt cases. So we took a look at those laws and, the laws, the way the legislature writes them, they're pages and paragraphs of really dense language and distilled them down into this front and back document that kind of gets at the key points of the changes that were made in the law. And we also created kind of a checklist that practicing attorneys and judges could use when they're going through these cases. So for this medical debt case, if someone is requesting a default judgment, you should stop and think, has the collector attached the information that's requested? And before you grant this, have these things occurred? Because again, there are changes in the law, there are new laws that get passed every year, and it's a lot to keep up with. So if there are laws that are impacting everyday Oklahomans, then we're able to kind of catch them and just inform people of, hey, in case you missed it, there is this change to this law. We should actually be practicing this way, or, you know, consumer rights, people's rights are being impacted. So like, let's make sure that we're following what the latest changes in the laws are. So those are our partner resources. And we also have one for evictions as well. And that is the legal partner resources. I'm going to briefly also talk about our other legal resources that we have on this page. The first one is legal information for Oklahomans. So this is through a partnership with the Oklahoma Department of Libraries to create information, again, that's available and easy to access for all Oklahomans. And we've created a booklet that is available in both English and in Spanish, as well as a booklet for library staff on common civil legal issues like divorce, guardianship, probate, wills and trusts. You know, common things that people have questions about or maybe dealing with, and they don't kind of know what the process is. So these materials, like I said, they're available on the library website. You could also access them through our website. And let me go to page 1 for some reason. You can download these, you can print them. There are also additional online videos that are posted on the library website. But just to give you an example, you know, this is just an infographic on like what's the difference between the types of bankruptcy, and you know how do they work a little bit. And these materials are available through the website, and I believe also there might be hard copies in some of the libraries as well. So it's a great resource to have. We're working on updating them as changes have been made. And there's also on this website that the libraries provided a list of common court forms that people use. And these are court forms that have been approved by their authorized court forms. So you can print them out and use them in court. So I think this is a really great resource here that the library has. The next thing on our list is the oklaw.org. And this is a website that Legal Aid Services of Oklahoma manages and maintains. And again, there are common legal issues here. It's they have some forms that you can use if you're looking for just information on topics of law. This is your website. This is your hub to just learn more about these different areas of the law. The next one is Oklahoma Law for People, which is the free legal information that's provided by the Oklahoma Bar Foundation or Bar Association. We are working with the Bar Association to update these materials, but for now, there are several brochures or short information pages that you can read. And then there are a number of videos on this website about different areas of the law. So we're excited that, you know, within the next year, we're going to have updated materials for this website that again are, you know, focused on plain language and just being more accessible to the public. And then finally, just circling back to what we talked about in the beginning, is about our podcast. So we launched this year in January a podcast called the Oklahoma Justice Exchange, and it's a monthly podcast on relevant issues happening in Oklahoma and abroad. And we really want this to be a podcast that's for everyone. It's not just for lawyers, because Jenna King, our director of operations, is our host, and every episode she reminds us that, like, don't worry, if not a lawyer, neither am I, because like legal issues affect everyone. They're not just for lawyers, they're not just for judges. Like, the law impacts so many different areas of our lives that many people don't even realize it until you're actually facing a challenge that requires you to access the justice system or requires you to look up the law and figure out what your rights are, what you can do to remedy a situation. So we're really excited about this. We have a new podcast that drops, I believe, at the end of every month. So May's will be coming soon. But for now, you can listen to the Oklahoma Justice Exchange anywhere you get podcasts. We're not only on this website, but anywhere like Spotify, Apple Music, or Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts. Okay, that was a lot of information, but it was all really, really important and helpful. So now we get to the like how. How can community legal navigators use these materials? Well, again, we believe that PLI is for everyone because everyone is impacted by the law. The resource library is for attorneys and judges and community legal navigators and members of the public, and whether you're actually actively involved in the legal system or trying to represent yourself, or if you're just curious and want to learn more about rights from like an advocacy perspective or just legal issues from an advocacy perspective. And again, I know I am kind of repeating myself, but these materials are designed to be easy to use and share. We want them to integrate, we want you to integrate them into your work, you know, whether it's providing them to clients or having a stack of handouts at your desk or at your office, or displaying them, you know, sharing them with friends and family. We really think, again, you know, just information is powerful when you have it. So again, we're just trying to give people in the broader community access to like their own like legal power within themselves. But with that, there's like always the caveat. You know, as a legal first aid, you know, graduate and community legal navigator, we can only give out legal information, not legal advice. So I want to just give a like end on a quick little refresher of what that is and what the difference is. So legal information is sharing about facts, about the law, and about processes. You're helping someone understand the steps that they need to take to fill out certain forms or know when they need to go to court. You're providing objective information, and you're not giving your own opinion about what someone should do. You're only just again providing objective factual information, and you aren't getting down into the weeds or the details of an issue. And like legal advice is when you tell someone what they should be doing. It's, you know, strategizing. It's again giving your opinion on helping someone achieve their desired legal outcome. And you can't do that. Only lawyers can give legal advice. And I have a few examples of, you know, what is legal information and what's legal advice. So just in general, if you provide, excuse me, approved or court authorized forms and instructions, that's fine. So the materials that we had on the fines and fees website, like those court authorized forms and the instructions, like that is permissible legal information. But if we tell someone, you know, this is what you should say in these documents, that is, you know, crossing the line into legal advice, and that is not allowed. So we don't want to get into the area of UPL or unauthorized practice of law. So with that, what's next? Now that you have these tools at your fingertips, I hope that the greater community justice or the community legal navigators feel empowered to use the ATJ website and the legal resource library to provide legal information to folks in your community. So what can you do, you know, immediately? What actions can you take today? You can bookmark the website, like bookmark the legal resource library. So that way you have it handy. So the next time someone comes to you with a housing issue or domestic violence questions, you know, you can easily pull that up and share it with them. And then also let us know what you think. Like, we're very open to feedback on our materials, or if you find that links aren't working, or there may have been a change in the law that we haven't gotten to update yet, please reach out to us and let us know, because we want to provide, good and accurate legal information to Oklahomans. So thank you very much for your time today. I really appreciate it. And again, I hope that you come away from this feeling even more empowered, coupling what you learned in legal first aid and the resources that you have through OCJN, the Community Justice Network website, now with this legal resource library to really make a impact in your communities and help close the justice gap. Thanks.
Thank you, Alicia. That was fantastic. We really appreciate it. So far, I'm the only one who's dropped anything in the chat, but we do have a few minutes. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat or speak up. Any comments? Again, we would like to thank Alicia for her presentation today. It's been very helpful, very solid build on what community legal navigators learn in the legal first aid course. Next month, we have our next OCJN 201 on Thursday, June 25th from 12 to 1. Our featured speaker will be Josiah Robinson, and look for more information on that soon in your email. We will be having a bonus legal first aid offering training event in July. So if any colleagues, of any other organizations who would like information about legal first aid, please let us know. Please remember that I am your ongoing legal support and here if you need anything. And other than that, let's thank Alisha for her time and effort for today's presentation, and we will see everyone next month. Thank you very much.